upon a youth leader for a demo speech that incorporates everything that I just mentioned. And this youth leader, he is called the Midas of Jubail, because you know, Midas touch, whatever he used to touch turned into gold. This gentleman, this youth leader of yesteryears, of course, whatever he does it with perfection. Be it studies, playing guitar, playing football, delivering speeches, whatever, he does it perfectly. And he's none other than our very own Jefferson George to deliver an inspirational speech in front of us. Youth leader Jefferson George.
Am I audible at the back? Have you shaken somebody's self-respect with a shaky handshake? Are you still reluctant to make friends with strangers? Do you look aside when someone you don't like passes by you? Youth leader of the day, fellow youth leaders, Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
When I was in class 7, I used to look aside or pretend to be busy reading a book whenever my neighbor's son smiled at me. I thought it was a waste of time talking to him. I chose not to be close to any of my classmates who showed signs of common cold. Well, I didn't fear of being infected by the same malady, but I could not stand the sight of someone sniffing, sneezing, and smelling sick. I hated seeing my sick neighbors, though I looked sick myself, and I never attended their funerals when they passed away. The smell of sickness was always abhorrent to me. I used to love the Japanese way of greeting. Do you know why? It's simple. It involves no handshaking. A bow is good enough, but at times, bowing too low, another problem. Well, I've knocked down a few people by bumping into their abdomen. I used to maintain a safe distance from old people, too frail to walk alone. Instead of pitying them, I used to wonder, why should they live so long? Well, they are of no use to the society. It's like many of us sitting here. In short, I was deep into the world of illusions and shut myself out of the world of realities. Well, life has its twists and turns. There was an unexpected twist to my short story. My grandpa has never run short of love and affection for me. And of course, I used to take advantage of this to my best. Till today, all my additional expenses are still met with the money I get from him. Last summer, I was in my hometown. One afternoon, as I returned home after an hour-long biking, I had some shocking news. I was told that my grandpa went into a coma following a high fever and a liver infection. I went to the hospital, only to see him laid on the bed, looking faded and frail. I thought to myself, I was going to lose my grandpa. I was not ready to leave my grandpa for this world. His wrinkled face and gnarled hands did not appear ugly to me. They appeared to be the most beautiful hands and face that I had ever seen. The smell of sickness around his bed suddenly turned into an aroma. A week later, he regained his consciousness, and the joy of seeing him up and about overwhelmed my heart. As I stood by his bed, I realized how foolish I had been all those years. It was there that I learned my first lesson, that a heart filled with love is far superior to a mind filled with ideas. But what came as an eye-opener occurred in July 2009. If you take a closer look at my face, you may see some tiny marks left behind by a week-long, debilitating chickenpox. As I was reeling under a high fever and an aching body, I ignored my personal hygiene. I did not pay any attention to my immediate surroundings. My mother, the embodiment of love and monument of patience, held me, cleaned me, and remained close to me. A week later, I was up and about, though a little weak and tired. I had a truckload of classwork and homework to complete. I called up one of my reliable friends, trying to borrow his notebooks. I told him I would personally go to his house and pick up the notebooks. But I received a shocking reply. He was reluctant to lend me his notebooks and refused to talk to me in person. He was not ready to let me touch his notebooks. The fear of infection seized his mind. I was devastated. I felt like an untouchable. What went around came around. I paid a very heavy price, but learnt a valuable lesson. So fellow youth leaders, when we see the less fortunate ones, let us talk to them and be close to them. Can any one of us sitting here claim to be disease-free?
No.
Some of us are chronically sick. We're all bound to become old, sooner or later. When we see a blind man, let compassion inspire us to help him cross the street. When we see a lame man, let kindness flood our hearts to help him take a few steps down the corridor. Fellow youth leaders, look at the objects of nature. The periwinkles and primroses live in harmony. The chimps and chicks love their species. We, the superhumans, should never ever abhor or spurn our fellow humans. A hungry man may look up to you for food, and a confused man may ask you for clarification. If hate dwells in our hearts, we will be surrounded by strangers. So fellow youth leaders, let's tell the world the value of a warm handshake that we have learned in the YLP. Let's spread the message of mutual respect that we have learned in the YLP. Let's learn to look beneath the deceptive appearances and learn to get along with the less fortunate ones to make this world a beautiful place to live in. Over to you.